Yes.
Hello everyone, my name is Samantha COF, and I'm here to talk to you all today about the death penalty. So by definition, the death penalty, which is capital punishment, is execution by the government. It's a sanctioned punishment by death. The sentence is referred to as the death sentence, which is basically the same as what I just said. So I claim that the death penalty is not an effective punishment, and I make this claim based off of the fact that the death penalty wastes time, it wastes money. Innocent people are killed because of the death penalty, and it kills people unjustifiably. And lastly, the death penalty does not actually deter crime as it is intended to. And so to begin, the death penalty wastes time and it wastes money. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, since 1978, in California alone, over $4.6 billion tax dollars have been spent on the death penalty. This includes the cost of pretrial, trial, automatic appeals, and state habeas corpus petitions, federal habeas corpus appeals, and the actual incarceration of the criminal before they are put to death. So depending on the state, some of these are mandated and they're necessary to give to people in order for them to, in an effort to appeal their punishment, or at least reduce it from the death penalty. And because the goal is to bring people to justice for what they did, this just goes to prove that this is wasteful and it doesn't actually efficiently carry out its ultimate goal. It exerts a lot of efforts, and it's not necessarily going to be given to people who are put on death row. So another supporting detail to my first claim is that the Death Penalty Information Center says that in Texas, the average cost of a death penalty case is $2.3 million. This is approximately 3 times what it costs to imprison a person in a lone cell by themselves for 40 years with the highest level of security. And money spent on the death penalty can be saved instead of put towards using it. And people can, instead of having to die, they can just move away for a long time. And lastly, in order to sentence a person to capital punishment, many great measurements are to be taken. They have to be found guilty of a capital offense such as espionage, first-degree murder, or terrorism, and this can take years on end. And that leads me to this detail, the supporting fact that according to the California case study of 2011, the current backlog of death penalty cases is so severe that most of the 714 prisoners now on death row will wait well over 20 years before their cases are resolved. People should be able to defend themselves in a timely manner to prove their innocence, and it's basically a big oops of the death penalty if they can't do that, because if they die waiting to prove they're innocent, there's no point to even having the death penalty. It doesn't efficiently carry out its task. And so on to my next point, innocent people are killed because of the death penalty, and it kills people unjustifiably. Since 1973 and up until 1993, this study shows that more than 150 people were released from death row with evidence of their innocence. This is according to the staff report done by the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Civil and Constitutional Rights in 1993. And one ultimate goal is to deter crime. If it isn't doing that, it's not an effective punishment. And obviously, people are able to prove their innocence. Therefore, it's not actually, it's not tied into carrying out its ultimate task. We know from what I just said previously that people have been able to prove themselves innocent, but we also know that people have been have died waiting on their actual trial because of how long it takes. There's a limited amount of time. So innocent people are dying, and that's not fair to them because they can be innocent or guilty, but they aren't able to prove that themselves because of the limited amount of time they have. In addition to the quote that I just read from the California case study 2011, many of these condemned inmates will thus languish on death row for decades only to die of natural causes while still waiting for their cases to be resolved, and that's about 25% of them. So that just goes to prove that people aren't able to really defend themselves or at least prove their innocence. But the death penalty does not deter crime, lastly. According to another study by the Death Penalty Information Center, beginning in 1991 and up until the time of the study recently in 2013, States with a death penalty have had a consistently higher murder rate than those without it. People plotting to commit a crime punishable by the death penalty do not consider that they can be given the death penalty before they do it. Meaning, somebody who's going to go out and kill 20 people is not going to think, oh, there's a death penalty here, let me not do it. It doesn't have an effect on people, therefore it's not actually deterring crime as it should. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, once more, a recent study by Professor Michael Redelet and Tracy COF of the University of Colorado shows that 88% of the nation's leading criminologists, which are really prestigious people, do not believe that the death penalty is an effective deterrent to crime. These people are, they dedicate their lives and all their time and energy to this, and if they really do not, if a majority of them do not believe it's going to efficiently deter crime, it's for a reason. And so that concludes my speech. Thank you for your time.
I can staple my.
No, that's okay.
Oh, sorry about that.
No problem.
Do you want me to staple these?
No, it's all right. Don't worry about it. All right, the proposition's clearly identified. It's phrased with a negative term, so that makes it a little bit confusing. There is a preview, and it sounds like you've got 5 or 6 supporting issues that you're going to be talking about. They need to be phrased as claims, and I think that's a little bit problematic because they're often just topic areas that you're getting into. And some of them kind of run together. You need to structure it a little bit more simply so it's more straightforward to follow. Some of the arguments delve into value issues. When you talk about something being unjustified, that's a value claim. The notion that people who are innocent might be executed or that innocent people have been exonerated while waiting trial, that is good factual data, but the inference that we ought to be drawing from that is that there are failures in the system that allow this to occur. So that's the way I think you want to deal with the structure of your argument. You kind of get into the deterrence issue a little prematurely on that point, and then you deal with it separately on the bottom. I think that it does need to be a separate issue that is developed. There's kind of this interesting contradiction that says that they don't get justice because they're in jail for a long time waiting for their sentences to be reviewed by the courts. And the question that I have is, if they are not waiting for that and they just get sentenced to life imprisonment as an alternative, how does their case ever get resolved in court because they've already been convicted and there's not any appeal in that particular process? How is it different? I'm not sure that there is a difference that goes on there. So I think that there's kind of an inherent problem built into this argument. The issue of cost, I thought, was the one that you developed the most clearly with the most distinctive evidence. You had examples in California and Texas about what the costs were. So the question of if that cost is excessive or it's causing some harm, I do think we need to have a little bit more information on that, but you did a pretty good job on that. The deterrence issue is largely dependent on a state-by-state comparison that is very brief and I think ambiguous, and then you're asking us to take the consensus of opinion of experts, which I'm not sure, that that's the way that we want to do things. But I mean that's a good persuasive appeal to make, and I think that that's a good way to phrase it there. All right, thank you. And apparently that will be it for the evening. Thank you, folks.